Well, welcome back. This is the third of three videos exploring Chapter 12 of Wheeler's most excellent textbook, Security Risk Management. What we're going to be doing during this very short video is briefly exploring the NIST framework. So NIST stands for, by the way, National Institute of Standards and Technology. And they started out with a pub 800-53, which is an 8-step life cycle. And then over time, this has been modified to become a 6-step process, which is captured in SP 800-37. And you can see that framework here. It starts off with that categorize step, step 1, where we're looking at what are the applicable laws, regulations, standards that we follow, what are the strategic goals and objectives, mission, vision, value statement, and then how are we going to use those organizational inputs to look at what architectures would be appropriate within our organization. Number 2, once we have that information, we move towards selecting security controls, implementing those controls, assessing those controls to see if they're accurate or not. And then once we have a full picture of what's going on in the system, we're authorizing that system for use, which means we have the ability to not authorize that system. So it changes that traditional focus to a certification and accreditation kind of approach, and this idea that we're then monitoring those controls to make sure that they meet that baseline certification and accreditation. So what we're trying to do through this is change how we make decisions about risk. And as we're doing that, that certification and accreditation creates a mechanism where there's a baseline. As long as everything is meeting that baseline, you know you're in a safe and happy place. As we look at risk management life cycle, this is what that flow would actually look like. And again, this looks awfully familiar. Starting with resource profiling, figuring what assets we have out there, looking at and conducting a risk assessment, where we're looking at threats and vulnerabilities, and thus we're looking at risk. Moving into a risk evaluation, which leads to those decisions of accept, avoid, transfer, or mitigate. We then document those decisions, including those exceptions to policy and what our mitigation plans are. Implement that risk mitigation plan with the controls that we've selected. Validate they're actually working and we're reducing our risk exposure so that our residual risk is lower than our risk threshold. We then monitor and audit to make sure that that system continually stays lower than our risk threshold. All right, well, this brings us to the end of the chapter and actually the end of the video. Certification and accreditation is a very interesting emerging opportunity to reduce our risk, and it's one of those things that's been focused on over the last couple of years by NIST. All right, again, this is the third of three videos looking at Chapter 12 of Wheeler's most excellent textbook, Security Risk Management. Next chapter, Chapter 13, we're going to pick up again and look at a blueprint for security.